Bear with me because I'm a little bit sick and tired right now, so I may take some breaks for breathing. But luckily, I don't have to make this video about my current school situation. Now, I'm sure it will change in the future because I'm a realistic person. I don't expect things always to be great. But this video is about how teachers do not actually tend to think about how they are affecting their students' lives and how they're affecting their students' futures. And there's a very annoying whistle from the wind. So I'm gonna close the external window and then come back, because there's two. There's an external window and an internal window. And it applies to so many different aspects. One that always really enraged me, because it's very serious, is that if they give you a poor score just to feel good about themselves or to get you on it, you didn't get that technicality, like, oh, you forgot to check that box, you get 0, that's how life works. No, that's not how life works. That's your decision to be an asshole and fuck with somebody else's life to make you feel powerful. And actually, I had that exact situation one time where I did an assignment, did great on it. It was a computer assignment, but apparently on like the first page or the last page, I don't know, there was a checkbox I didn't check. It was a computer assignment. I turned it in early and everything, did it great. And there was a checkbox, and I didn't check it, and I got 0. I didn't just get like minus 10%. I got 0. And that made me very mad. And it's not because, oh, I care about my grade. Like, see, I'm an A student. I don't want to be, no, screw that. Who cares? Who cares if you get an A or a B? I don't care. Unless it matters, like for getting into medical school or law school, you've got a mental problem if you're obsessed with your grades. Grades only matter if they matter. Grades in and of themselves do not matter. They only matter if they're going to actually change something in your future. Which means that if you get a 0 and fail a class and perhaps don't graduate your university, and then you can't get a job, or you can't get into your next university. Luckily, if you graduate at least, you could still probably get a job, albeit not a good job. But let's make a situation of, if a teacher fails you in a class, and you don't graduate your university, and now you pretty much can't support yourself. Now, perhaps you watching this, you didn't go to any university, you work somewhere, and you're like, well, it doesn't matter. Well, yes, of course you can live without going to university, but also keep in mind that if someone goes to university, they've made the investment of going to university. So that is a big impact, especially if they are towards the end and the professor decides to be an a-hole. I already said asshole, I think, so I may as well say it again, and screw up their future. Imagine you're left with a debt, and now you don't have a degree, and now no one wants to hire you, and yeah, it's gonna screw up your life. And that's something professors either don't think about or they don't care about. And I have sadly encountered it many times, and it infuriates me. Especially it infuriated me once I had a girlfriend who is now my wife, because I was thinking, like, that affects my future and my wife's future. Hold on, my wife just got back. Oh, it seems like she has some keys that I forgot she had. She had me close the door behind her when she left, so I forgot. I didn't think she had keys. I am recording a video. But yeah, I took that as an attack. And I don't mean like, oh, an attack, like a verbal attack or something. No, I mean that's an actual attack on somebody. If you fail them in a class, which causes them to not graduate their university, which means they can't get a job and support themselves and their family, That's a serious attack. It should not be taken lightly. It should not be treated lightly. It, in fact, probably should even be punishable by prison. If you actually think about how significant that is, like if you just decided to be an asshole and did something that got someone fired from their job and prevented them from getting a job in the future, that'd be a big deal. But for some reason, when professors do it because they're having a bad day or they're on a power trip or they're just an asshole, oh no, it's just they're doing their job. You didn't check the checkbox, or you didn't do this. So yeah, if you actually think about the consequences of things, you realize that these actions are not insignificant. In fact, they're very significant. And on another note, and in general, they don't think of, like I said, perhaps they do think about it and they're assholes. But another example of this is if you give students a bunch of bullshit to fill out on their, like to write, spend hours writing, and you know that it's not important, it's not helping them to be more knowledgeable about the subject that they're going to school or university to study, and then it's literally just a waste of time. Perhaps you're not intelligent enough to think that if you give extra hours of work to do on top of all the other stuff they have, that they're not going to be able to sleep enough, or even if they do sleep enough, they're not going to be able to have free time to exercise or do other things that keep them healthy. The bottom line is if you give bullshit assignments to do that you know are a waste of time, you are attacking somebody's health. Now, of course, this isn't actually the case for every student, because some students, even if given the time, would damage their own health by spending the time just watching TV rather than walking around. And maybe you're not the most health-minded person, and you think, well, you don't need to walk. Yeah, you actually do need to walk around. Now, you can skip a day here and there, but in general, you need to be walking around on most days to stay healthy, or going to the gym or swimming or something. And if a professor assigns bullshit that prevents a student from doing let's just say, the bare minimum exercise to stay healthy, that's a serious thing. And then because they're young, they can go, or same thing with sleep. If it means they can't sleep enough, you may go, oh, but they're young, they don't need to sleep very much. Well, you finish and you get over it. This is what you do when you're young. You can be unhealthy and it doesn't matter. You can go without. No, it actually does have consequences. And who's to say that you will be able to catch up on this stuff later in life? If you go years without proper sleep, without proper exercise, and let's say you're not living with your parents, or say you are living with your parents, but one way or another, you don't have enough time to prepare healthy foods, although that's probably takes the smallest amount of time out of these things I've mentioned. But you do all that for years, and depending on the person and depending on how severe their lack of sleep and exercise was, they might have actually developed a health condition. Yeah, you actually lack of sleep, lack of exercise, toss in their not ideal diet, and yes, there is a decent chance that you will develop a health problem. And if you don't develop it during those few years, then you get your job afterwards and you continue a poor lifestyle, well, eventually it's going to add up, and perhaps you don't get a heart attack, like an acute illness, but you are going to suffer some sort of health consequences, most likely. So yes, making students waste their time, and of course, if school day is 2 hours, and you give 2 hours of bullshit work, there's plenty of time. But guess what? Most school days are not 2 hours long. For example, me in medical university right now, school days are often 10 hours long. And that's the school day. That's not going to school. That's not coming back from school. Then you gotta toss in grocery shopping, because guess what? You do need food or else you'll die. You do need to shower, ideally every day, and some people go without it, but you do need to do that. You need to eat the food after you grocery shop. And unless you just buy paper plates and toss them out, you need to wash your dishes. There are certain things that you must do, so you can't just be like 10 hours, you've got all those other hours of the day. Well, no, you have to get there, you have to get back, you have to buy food, you have to eat food, you have to clean up from food, and then you toss in hours and hours of assignments after that, and then you go, well, to be healthy, I should actually walk around a little bit and sleep. Then you start running into some issues. And people do also need to relax sometimes. You can go quite a while without relaxing, but you do need to relax at times. But personally, I take the failing of students, or the actions that can lead to them not being able to get a job in the future, and I take that as the most severe, and I don't know the word for it. But yeah, that should be a punishable by law offense for no good reason, perhaps prevent someone from being able to support themselves or their family in the future. That's a big deal. And then and it depends on how you think. It's just, it's hard to rank things. But then somewhere on this scale comes giving a bunch of bullshit work that is going to harm the student's health. So when you actually think of the consequences of actions, you sometimes come to realize that those actions aren't so insignificant. I hope you consider that with other things in life, and I hope you like this video, and I hope that you can manage to find a way to make it through your school or your university, to one, make it through and graduate, and two, to stay healthy while you do it. Even if you have to sacrifice your grades, of course, keep in mind if those grades matter. So if you don't plan to go to graduate school, or that's pretty much the only time your grades matter, if you don't plan to go to graduate school, prioritize your sleep over that little bit higher grade. You'll thank yourself in the future. You never know, it could be the difference between life or death, and it sounds like a joke. Oh no, getting a little less over time, that can really screw up your health. Maybe not next year, maybe not the year after, but at some point in time, it's likely to screw up your health. And people don't tend to have perfect lives, so you never know what else is going to happen in your life. And you're probably not going to die from your lack of sleep, but I'll end this video here. Hopefully you can get through school and stay healthy.